Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics. I answer the phones for Critical Blast Consultings if you have data needs with your crowdfundings, and I'm the myopic proofreader behind Critical Blast Publishing. I switch it up sometimes. I mix it all around. It's never the same speech. Tonight, we are going to dig into the world of crowdfunded comics once again, this time kicking it over to Kickstarter to look at Designated #1. And joining us tonight, we have the original Mark Torres on the line with us. And yeah, Mark, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you here. And joining him, we have Mr. Peter Retro Palmiotti. Peter, how are you tonight, sir?
Hello. Doing okay.
Oh, I'm going to be just fine in about 2 more swallows.
Oh, nice. I should have brought some.
This is a BYO stream.
It is. It's always, this is my doctor's orders, high blood pressure. He's like, tannins will do that. I'm like, so I got to go buy wine. He's like, just have a beer every night. I'm like, put that on a prescription so I can give it to my insurance company. I would love to be able to just, say, hey, here's my insurance card at the liquor store. Just take it out of this.
Just your copay.
So Peter, I know how you probably got into comics, because because you guys got a family name going there. You are related, right? I'm not making an assumption out of nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't you have Jimmy on at some point? Maybe
I did.
Yeah.
A couple months back.
Yeah.
Way too long ago.
Yeah, we're brothers. He's like almost a year and a half older than me. I have 3 older brothers. I'm the youngest, but me and Jimmy were the ones that got into comics. All of us were some kind of artists growing up. We were all creative and artistic. We get that from our father. It was sort of like we grew up like the local haircutting place had comics there. My father, that was probably the first actual comic books I saw with Archie and Rich Rich and stuff like that. But my father brought home papers every night, and like 3 or 4 New York papers, and they all had strips in them. And I started reading those. And eventually, Dad took us both to a small dive bomb hotel on the edge of Brooklyn that was a comic convention in like a basement. and it wasn't really a comic convention, but George Perez was there. So that was fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. The small cons back in the day were where you'd actually meet people. Now I so relate because I tell the story a lot. I grew up in Sparta, Illinois, which was where all the comics were printed in the 70s and 80s until they went to the Baxter printing stuff. And when I was 4 years old, I was learning to read off of comic books that I got from our barber shop in town.
Yeah.
I still remember, and I still own, not the same one, but I still own the Superman comic where he's being sucked. He's being dragged through the earth because the center of the earth's been turned into a black hole, and he's gripping onto the U of his own name and telling the reader to save him or they're next.
Nice.
Like, oh, that was just so cool. But so Mark, how did you get into this crazy business of making comics?
Into the business is a different story about how I got involved in comics. When I was born, always wanted to be in comics. So my earliest memory was watching the Incredible Hulk TV series. So that puts me at 4 years old in 1978. I always wanted to do that. I saw the comics. I saw TV shows. Was it the Incredible, the Impossibles, Birdman, Galaxy Trio, all that stuff. And I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So then I realized that there was actual comics. I remember going to, I think it was called Cindy and Steve's, or Bambi was a local candy store, and they had comics there. Every once in a while, I used to have enough money to get a comic. I think it was 65 cents. I got Power Man Iron Fist, a couple of those things. I was like, I really want to be comics. I want to be comics. So I went to school for art in my high school. And then I went to the New York Academy of Comic Book Arts and Fantasy Illustration in Manhattan. And that was the actual comic book school that I went to learn about the craft and all about comics. Because up until then, I always thought the artist was the one that drew and made the comics. So it turns out that they're just one part of the comic book machine.
It's a whole team.
The writer is the one that actually makes the stories and tells the artist what to draw. So I was like, oh, well.
Sometimes.
Well, generally speaking.
Yeah. So you're not going to fall into that just the writer category.
No.
That causes so much unnecessary division in comics lately.
So the discussion at the school was I am a better writer than I am an artist, and my pencils were drawn like a lot like an inker. So at that point in time, I was already drawing my own little, homeschool comic books about, rip-off superheroes and all that kind of stuff. And to make it a serious thing, the comic book school was like, well, you can make a comic book, an independent comic book, because this is now the 90s. And Image had just came out. And it was like, for $2,000, you can make and print your own comic book.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do that for $2,000. Although apparently I could not do that for $2,000 because here I am 30 years later. And still, it's very hard to have $2,000 spare dollars.
Yes, even today, it's and back then it was real money. Now it's like
Yeah.
you just go out and scrape it up on the internet a little bit.
So the other discussion about the comic was, hey, how do you get into the industry without losing your creative control over what you have? And obviously, at the time, and more so now, everything's about the IP and who owns this and who owns that. Remember, Image was just starting to come out, so there was only talk about creator-owned rights and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I kind of got involved, and then here we are, so many years later.
So what is what's your approach to writing a comic book? I mean, what did they teach there? Because there's no set way of doing it that I've seen. You've got the old school. Hey Jack, Spidey fights Doc Ock at the bank robbery, and the tidal wave comes in. Do it. And then you've got Alan Moore's page 1, panel 1, upper right hand corner. There's a butterfly. It's a painted lady. It's coming in from a southeast angle. That I saw like page one of Watchmen was 10 pages of text that he wrote in script. It was amazing the level of detail he was delivering.
I learned that you want to let the artist be the artist. So you don't want to confine them. So you just want to give a general idea of what's happening. And one of the other things I learned was that you don't want to have too much dialogue, because they have to be able to fit it all in the little panels and whatnot.
Yes.
So I kind of had a general rule of I can only have so many people talking or so many words per group to have text dialogue within the description. So I have description, this happens, and then they're speaking. So usually when a person is speaking, it's in relation to either a portion of that description of the dialogue of the panels or in a specific panel. I'll say, okay, in this panel, they're saying stuff. But usually, okay, this guy walks into the room, he opens the door, he says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And then I type, Bob says, "Hi, honey, I'm home," quotes and all that stuff. So then I let it up to the artist to figure it out, and then we'll put the words in. So that was how I kind of did it.
Okay, so more almost like a play. I'm going to rearrange you guys here. Put the guests of honor up top. I don't need to be first in line there. So how did you guys hook up to be a team on this book?
So when once again at the comic book school, I wrote the story, 110 pages, and I wanted to make it my $2,000 that I hadn't gotten yet to make a comic book. So I started looking around, and I had a friend from high school. His brother liked to draw. That was it. He liked to draw, and he was like, "I'll draw it for you." So he drew all 110 pages over the course. Wow. I think it took him like 2 years, maybe. It was really cool just to seeing it come to play. And during all this time, I'm trying to get other stuff done, trying to move forward, trying to save $2,000. And it's a learning experience when you write something down and someone interprets it a different way that you didn't see it, or they make it better, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
So certain things he got really right. Some things he got really wrong. And I had to tell him, well, this isn't what I had imagined. And he went back and redrew it. But he did all 110 pages, 30 years, well, I'd say 20-something years ago. And he got so much better. His artwork actually improved over the time from the first issue to the 5th issue. When he was done with the 5th issue, I had him go back and redraw certain panels of the first 2 issues. And so while all that was happening, I was starting to go to conventions. And I went to a little combo convention in a church basement. And there Peter Palmieri was sitting there. And I was like, "Hey, that guy's an inker. I need an inker. Now I have a penciler." Yes. "Hey, Pete, I'm such and such a person. This is what I have. What do you think?"
Yep. And I saw the artwork, and I think you gave me the story. And it's like back then there was no internet.
It's actual physical pages.
Yeah,
of story.
I probably took the story home and read it. And then called you and said, "Yeah, I'm definitely in." I already liked the artwork and thought the guy did a really good job on what Mark was showing me. So
I was going to expect you to say something like, "Yeah, this kid out of nowhere just throws pages on my table."
I mean, how I worked back then was going to conventions and meeting small publishers, self-publishers, and just getting work by going up to people and say, "Hey, you got something?"
Yeah, it's I mean, that's what conventions were supposed to be for, was not just comic book convention, but any convention was a networking thing. It's like, hey, I need to find people who need what I do and do what I need. Let's get in here and network and find folks.
Like
And
there
then-
was no internet back then, so like, how do you find
Yeah.
people? You got to meet them
No.
somewhere. You got to go where they're at.
You've got to, write. So sometimes you had to write letters to them and say, "Hey, I read your story in this, and would you take a look at my stuff here?" I have a, I don't have it anymore. I send in a story submission to Dick Giordano.
Uh-huh.
Now I was all of 11 years old too, and I wrote this in pencil on lined paper, notebook paper. I at least put my address and date. I knew the format for a letter. And I told him my story idea. I said, "Hey, since you're doing these crossover things now with Marvel, because it was the Spider-Man, Superman thing had come out, and I'd gotten the Batman Hulk as well." And I just laid out this whole half-assed idea with a lot of words in it that basically said that Galactus was the reason Krypton exploded, and Superman just found out, and he's mad.
Ooh. That's an Elsewhere story right there.
Well, yeah, I think it would still work actually.
It would.
But he wrote me back, and he's it wasn't one of these like today, if you did that, your entire envelope would be sent back, unsolicited, manuscripts not accepted, blah blah. He said, it needs a little bit more work, but we're not looking for something like that right now, and I don't know that we're going to do more crossovers. Encouraged me to keep doing things, and I remembered this because there was a second part of the letter. I said, "Oh, by the way, it would be really cool if we had some sort of like encyclopedia of all the characters that we'd be able to refer to." And like a year later, the Who's Who came out. I'm like, that was my idea. Yeah.
You see that? They stole your idea.
They took my idea. I gave it to them freely.
Oh, okay.
I was a kid. I was happy that cool encyclopedia. Way to go.
So you're like the guy that created Venom, right?
No. Oh man, that's the story. I'm more like the guy who turned in the Batman manuscript, became a movie.
Okay.
That's another mess. I don't know how that's progressing, but you've got to keep better track of your IPs and submissions, folks. But no, the letterhead that he sent it back on was official DC Comics letterhead, and it was like it was Superman standing at the bottom of the page, Batman on his shoulders, Wonder Woman on his shoulders, Robin on her shoulders, and him holding the big DC ball at the very top.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was printed in the back, and it was printed in reverse. And I was like, "Why is it printed?" And then I held up to the light. I'm like, "Oh, it's a watermark." You can see it through the paper. I wish I still had that, but 11-year-olds, they don't tend to hold on to 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper for very long in good condition.
It's like my first check from Marvel had Spider-Man on it. It's like, should I keep this or cash it? I'll cash it.
Xerox it, and then pin the copy on the wall. So I'll start with Peter on this one, since you're the one who got hooked. What about the story hooked you for this?
It was well done. I mean, like, I at the time I met Mark, I probably worked on a number of different independent books, and a lot of what was around back in the early 90s, indie-wise, wasn't that original or fun or like well done. Like, he really had a really good handle on his scripting, and it made sense. The story progressed, things were happening, characters were being filled out, and like it was really well written, and I really wanted to be a part of it. Like, I was always like, looking for work, and getting the next paid gig is great, but actually working on something you'd be proud of after the fact was few and far between. So
took the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah. So even though, it's taken us a little bit to get it together, I'm still just as proud of it.
So Mark, you can give the elevator pitch for Designated, but Heroinberg's beat you to it. It's a battle between two alien races with superpowered teens stuck in the middle, set in the 90s. So this sounds a lot like an Image book, an Image of the 90s book, which I would imagine was major influence.
The idea actually was to be anti whatever was going on at the time. Everything was explosions and big time and all craziness. I want to do something very low key and very subdued. And also I thought, hey, let me make a female lead, because that wasn't a thing back in the 90s, to have a female lead in a comic book, like on a normal, and then have the multi-generational cast. I was like, nobody thought of that back then. So I kind of just went against type. And so I never really thought I can do it. It obviously was meant to be Image, because Image was the only place you can get your book made as creator owned, but it was very anti-type. Like, it's not like explosions and uniforms and so much stuff happening. It's stuff happens. There's aliens, there's action, but it more plays out like, this is kind of what happens. This is what happens to these people when this stuff happens, and then it ends. Beginning, middle, end. Full story.
Yeah, that's plot 101, folks, right there. Lorenzo, hey, good to see you in the chat.
Lorenzo.
Welcome.
Nita, good to see you as well. Glad you popped in. Yes, we were still playing your video. So do you know, was this before or after Gen 13? Because Gen 13 kind of almost, you didn't submit this and let anybody see it, did you?
This was before Gen 13. I would say I wrote it. If I had to take a guess, I'll say I started writing it in 92, 93. I finished writing it around 93, 94. Then the pencilist took another 2 years, 1 or 2 years. So like 98, 99, and around the 2000s is when I ran into Pete. So
Right.
it's been sitting there.
That's not going to work, Mark. 3 months. 3 months now. That's what it takes to get a comic. 3 months.
Well, they didn't say that in the school. They just said $2,000.
We demand a 3-month turnaround now. It's that's the new norm. Otherwise, it's late books. So this is a beautiful close up on the cover here. I'm guessing that you kept in touch with the original penciler. He knows this is going on.
Actually, I haven't spoken to him in quite some time. Actually, I barely talked to his brother. Like I said, these were high school friends. So I haven't talked to my friend, I say a good year or something. But I figured the best way is that if we fund, I'd be like, here's some money. Look what we did.
There you go.
That's a good way to come back, as opposed to, hey, we're kind of doing this. I hope it's going to do it. No, I want to be like, here's some money. This is what we did. Thanks a lot for your hard work. 30 years ago.
Was he already paid a page rate when he did this? Or was it just having fun?
It was, like I said, he was just a guy who was the younger brother of a guy who was in high school that liked to draw. And he's like, I'll do it. And I was like, well, if we get this done and we make some money, I'll give you some money. He's like, great. It never got done. We never made any money. So
he's probably, an accountant somewhere now. Put those. Yeah, I had dreams of making a comic book, but I drew one and nothing ever happened to it. So
Yeah.
he's gonna get a check out of the blue and just quit his job, and his wife's gonna leave him because he went into the world of comics. So the thing is, he did do a really good job on this. So I made the banner for this, the book on the spinner rack. I've got a template, and sometimes
Yes,
I just
I saw that.
reuse the ones that I can't think of something else to do with. And where it says, hey kids, comics. Was that sign a little bit understated? Is this a mature title, or is this
That's the so remember, this is 30-year-old Mark, and I'm like, we're gonna have an introduction to a female character. I want to see some skin, and that's pretty much the only time you see her.
Yeah.
And one of the advice I was given for Kickstarter is you want to show some skin on the campaign. So we're like, what's the best page to show? And that's the one.
Bad Girls is the Kickstarter is the home for Bad Girls. And this is true 90s way to show skin. It's like she's getting dressed, she's got one arm in her sweater, she's still doing her hair, and she's pulling her pants up.
Yep.
Nobody gets dressed that way.
This and that actually was redrawn. That particular page is his second attempt. The first one I wasn't too fond of, so I was like, draw it again, and this is like 100 times better.
It looks good. It's not a forced pose. I think the pose is very natural looking.
Yeah.
It's just the state of the clothing is like we're not. And
well, you want to introduce, like I said, you want to introduce somebody. That's where you got to go. That's how you introduce your main character. And
it's
more
in
creative story.
Than the shower. Yeah, it's more creative than a shower with soap bubbles in all the appropriate places. I mean, how many times have we seen that tired old trope trotted out?
And the idea was that so it's actually kind of like based on her powers, sort of, kind of, that she is that way. So I wanted to show that she was in a rush to get dressed, and something happens for her to stop her from getting to work on time. So it's like she feels like she's unlucky in life and that she doesn't listen to her gut, and things always happen. So her power kind of like is that she listens to her gut more, and good fortune follows her along the way. So that was the idea when I came up with that. And like I said, I'm a 30-year-old me that's in my 20s. 20-year-old Mark wants to see a half-naked chick, and especially if it's something that I write and someone else to draw. This is like your first time seeing something like that. Like, oh wow, this really came out good.
Oh yeah. I've got ideas that I would never commission. Just because I'll be like, I'll email you this. I don't want to stare you in the face while I tell you what's happening in this panel.
I've heard many stories. I've spoken to many artists over the years, and they're like, you won't believe the stuff that they asked me to draw. And they're like, they pay me, I'll draw it.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I feel like Sophia on the Golden Girls sometimes, 1942, Sicily, Chicago, 1989, back when it was the Chicago Comic-Con still, the Ramada O'Hare. I cannot remember the artist's name. I wish I could. He had this beautiful commission he was finishing up, and it was the Archie characters, and it was all of them. I mean, the pre-Kevin Keller and a bunch of these other characters they introduced, but for all they had, all of them just standing in a group, and all of them dressed in Dave Cockrum Legion of Superheroes attire. He had a one-to-one correspondence, like, oh, that is, this is like 20-year-old me too. Yeah, exactly 20.
That's crazy. I
was like, that's beautiful. And I was like, so you do this all the time? He's like, yeah, I draw Archie characters, people. I'm like, cool. He's like, yeah, it gets weird sometimes though. And he told me the previous commission he had done was Miss Grundy in leather spanking Mr. Weatherby.
I think I saw that one.
And I drew it. They give me the money. I draw it. The same year I met Larry Wells down in the basement, selling copies of Cherry Pop-Tart. Who's back, by the way, and doing it more. So you talk about her power. So this is not an origin story.
The origin of how they got their powers, but it's not really an origin story. It's just this happens. They got powers during the story, and this is what happens because of the powers. It's basically, we start in the middle of the war, as you can see in the little images that are there. The bad guys, you have the bad, bulky type of alien guys, and then you have the classic little green men alien guys, which are the good guys. They're fighting over this little gems right there. They realize that this can turn the tide of their centuries-old war, or however long ahead that war was. The designated aliens gets his men, and they run away and they hide into Earth. And they realize through the course of this story that the only way that they can hide the gems by being tracked by the fifth gem or sixth gem, I think it was it 1, 2, 3, by the sixth gem, as you can see, it's in his hand. It can track the other gems, the little crystals. So it's they realize they can implant it into human brains, and that will stifle
that always goes well
ability. And just by chance, it happens to give them powers. So they didn't even expect to give them powers. It was just, these people are here at the right place, right time. I'm going to operate on them, keep it away from the guy getting the thing.
So alien abduction, brain scans, operations, all that stuff that was very, very cool in the 90s, because, the X-Files was a thing too. Nita says, I've asked for some questionable commissions. Yeah, but Nita, you just tell you just tell Daphne about it, and then she makes them even spicier than what you asked for. She's like, "Oh, but it'd be so much better if we did this." So the war brings, I guess, because I'm thinking ahead, because the good aliens are trying to hide the gems. They come to Earth, they abduct kids. The bad aliens have tracked the good aliens, and now the war is here.
Except it's not really a war. It's just the main leader of the bad guys. He comes his way down, and he wants to make sure that this is a proper signal. Because one of the things we made sure was, which is story-wise, and it's actually in this panel that you have up, it explains why it was such a long time between when the good aliens got to the planet Earth and the bad aliens got to Earth. And it explains that they have false readings. So they've gone from planet to planet to planet to planet searching for it. And so they only have a little troop of people sent out throughout the galaxy to find this. So the king, when they get the good reading, like, okay, let's bring the king in. And then the king tries to get it. And then stuff happens. And then it ends. And that's it. So it's not like the entire war comes down. It's just the war brings it over because of the situation.
So is this a one and done, or is this the intro to multiple issues? I mean, it sounded like you had written several issues.
So I wrote the entire 110 pages, 5 issues spread out. At one point, it's going to be a graphic novel. At one point, it's going to be 5 separate issues. Throughout all the years, it's been going back and forth. This particular Kickstarter is for the first 22 pages, but because it's actually done, if we make certain stretch goals, we can give you, hey, here's the second issue for free just because we made so much money. Hey, here's the third issue for free because we made such and such money. And, you know, in a miracle world, if we make enough to do the entire trade, instead of getting the 5 issues, you will get the trade.
I've never heard of the subsequent issues being the stretch goal.
Because that's the thing. Like, we don't have to. I don't have to write it. We don't have to be drawn. It's written. It's drawn. Pete is working on the pencils right now. He's probably doing it right as we speak. And he's working on the inks. What is he doing? Issue 2 and 3 right now?
Yeah, just jumping back and forth.
So, do you like? And this is to Peter. Do you prefer inking to penciling? I mean, if I were an artist, I feel like I'd want the blank page.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, being traditional inker and doing it for 30 years, almost as long as Mark has been working on his book. But I mostly have worked over the pencils, the actual pencils. It's only recently that I'm more comfortable working over digital pencils, printing it out in blue line and then inking over that. It took a lot of effort for me to be this comfortable because, such a long time working the other way. I've dabbled, there's probably some stuff in the 90s and early 2000s that were digital, but it was majority of the inks I've done were over actual pencils, meaning people had to ship me pages and I'll ink them and then I have to ship them back and all that jazz. But now it's, with the wonderful world of the internet and technology, way different.
Even when it was early digital, and I'm looking back at 96, 97. I had a friend who was a colorist for a local indie comic publisher. They put out like 2 titles, 3 issues each. So they were like, that's a player these days. And then it kind of like fizzled out because they were all military, and the military likes to move you around, and they weren't together anymore. But he had a crate he was carrying out, and I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, this is tap number 1. We're sending it off to the printer. Like, how big is this book? He's like, no. There's these zip drives are that's not a zip drive, it's just a big thick stack. But these zip drives were like 8-track tapes, only square. And he's like, here's page 1. It was that was we didn't have internet, we had Milnet at that time. We were still coming out with it, so it was digital was more expensive to ship around than paper was at the time.
And since you mentioned digital and physical, all the pages he actually did do physical on, except for that cover that Francesco did. And this was one of the few times that, actually probably the only time that Francesco had ever been inked by someone else. And this is digital.
Yeah, I can tell it's a different ink style, and that's one of the things I learn as I talk with creators about what they do, because long before this I was just I enjoyed reading comics. When I read them, I didn't want to become a comic artist. I saw it more. I wanted to be the superhero because it seemed like a viable job option at the time. And I'm sitting here at 7 years old, 7, 8 years old. We would get the local junior college junk mail flyer with the course listings, and I'm in there, got my pen out, and I'm checking off criminology, chemistry, and sitting here waiting, wondering just how much I can sell this trailer for when my parents are killed by a mugger, because you have to be an orphan. It's the only way that you can be a superhero. No parents.
That was a checklist. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was ready to go. Costume designed and everything. Not made, just.
But you
drawn.
see how easily that story could be turned that you're the villain because you went and then you go kill your parents and then you become the villain.
You
of the
don't
story.
do that.
You like, I want to be an orphan. I'll take care of that myself.
That's how it works, right?
Then you get Brightburn. Great movie, by the way. I really liked that one. So, where do the teens come in the war that they're caught in the middle of? If there's just one bad alien and one good alien, and them getting their powers, is there fighting to be had between them?
So what happens is that the little green man, the good guy alien, he makes his way to Roswell, New Mexico, 1947, 45, whatever, and
people there.
Yeah. And it also explains why it took him so long, because this was set in the present day, which was the 90s. So he had to infiltrate into the human race, and then he had to learn about human physiology, and then he had to work his way up in disguise as a neuroscientist. And that was how he realized that he can put the gems in the heads. So at this point in time in the story, he was working at a hospital, and he was going to experiment on Chris, which is the guy in this panel right there. So I think he had cancer. I think he had the cancer ward or something, and he was going to be operating on him. And just at that time, due to all the other unique circumstances that all mesh up and match up, there was a multi-car crash outside of the hospital. So then a whole bunch of people are just wheeled into the hospital, and he's like, oh, instead of working on one, I can work on all these guys.
I have meat. It's all right here.
And it's Francesco with an exclamation point. It's always Francesco. We always have to put that in there. Yes, it is that Francesco.
So here are the rewards on here. And before I get into that, I'm gonna stop on the logo, because the book is called Designated. Your name's Mark Torres. Say it loud, say it proud, say it often, folks. Repeat it all over the internet. Tell everybody that Mark Torres has a comic book out on Kickstarter. We're laughing because it's a joke. But it came from the radio. What is that?
Came from the radio is the official, the Big Apple Con from Big Apple, Manhattan, New York. It is going to be on 20 years next year. Will be our anniversary. So one day I was driving home from the cemetery, and I heard on the radio, hey, if you have a passion about something and you have a niche audience and you want to reach out to creators in the field, why don't you have your own radio show? Now, remember, at the time, I was trying to get my book published. So I thought, hey, if I have a radio show about comics, I can talk to other comic book people, and by then I can get my book published. So it was a roundabout way to get my comic book published. So we started the radio show. It was originally called the Comic Book Novice. It was on Long Island's oldest radio station, WGBB, 1240 AM. And we were on there for many years. And as we went along, the show started out a little half hour, and then it grew into an hour, and I dragged Pete to be a part of that. So we used to go down to the studio. It was always 4 of us. So we had myself, we had the expert in the industry, then we had the older person who knew all the old stuff, and then we had a female who also didn't know anything about the comic industry, and she would be the comic book novice. So we can always explain stuff to her to appeal to a broader audience as opposed to just comic book fans. You want to appeal to the average Joe who doesn't know anything about comics. You can talk about it. So that was the idea. And as it went on, and it came from the radio. We are now on 88.1 FM WARY in Westchester County. We're on 3 online radio stations as well, and also on about 40 different podcast places. It's a weekly syndicated radio show, and we talk about movies, comics, entertainment. It's changed over the years because now it originally started out as kind of like The View. That was kind of the idea I was going off of, because The View had just started, so you had like different people from different walks of life. Barbara Walters was the old lady and what have you, and then it kind of morphed into like a Craig Ferguson late show type vibe, where we just kind of have fun, we just kind of just enjoy ourselves, have conversations, as opposed to having, set questions and interview wise. And now, because of the pandemic, we kind of have to guerrilla style the show together. So we have like a separate segment of interview I do at different times. And then we have our little news segment that I read off the news of the week. And then I have my co-host comment on that, which is pretty much has been the same way through all these years. And then we also have a segment called Jaber and Lee, which is a father-daughter duo. And they talk about their perspective on movies, entertainment, and whatnot. And we've had big names, we have little names. We kind of focus more on the independent guys. But I always like to name drop that we've had Mark Hamill on the show. We've had William Shatner on the show. We've had some Power Rangers on the show. If you're a Buffy fan, we had Amber Benson on the show. So we've had some names, but I like the little independent guys.
Man, this is fly by the seat of my pants. I come in here 5 minutes before show and turn it on and say, okay, who are we talking to? You're total pro at this. So here, I'll give you the controls. You take over. You talk to me.
One of my favorite interviews that never got to air because of technology was Robert Culp, from I Spy. He was it was the best interview I've ever done. He was an amazing talent, but it was only on an audio recorder on a little mini tape. And I never had the ability to take that and transfer it to a regular tape so I could record it on digitally. So it's in storage somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah. All my, when I first got into this business before we were live streaming and I was writing for another website, it was literally a cassette tape with the special microphone plug that goes to your phone. And then I would record. And it was like, if I had a long interview, I'd be like, excuse me, Mr. Gaiman, I need to turn the tape over. And I did that. I would love to get some of those transferred to digital, because I eventually did get a digital recorder, which was a lot faster. Still was transcribing, wasn't doing live stream stuff, but yeah, I've got one digital audio interview that I never did anything with because it was just such a bad connection and he had such a weak voice. But it was Richard Anderson, who played Oscar Goldman on The $6 Million Man. Yeah. And it was, right at the time that they released that whole series set on the box. You open the box and went. But I've got to get him transferred to digital because one specifically, I've got Thurl Ravenscroft on cassette tape, and that transcription of Thurl Ravenscroft just does not do the interview justice. Thurl was the voice for Tony the Tiger in all the cereal commercials and sang "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" and all that. And I was like, this interview is no good if I don't have the voice. And then he starts telling stories about, his days in the Army Air Force, flying the plane that took Winston Churchill to the Yalta Conference, and then singing backup for Elvis Presley in movies. I'm like, yeah, this interview is going to be great. No, this interview is going to be great.
Sometimes you run into people that they're really, really interesting and way more than what on paper they are.
Right.
Yeah. I had no expectations of that other than, it was the Jim Carrey Grinch movie was coming out. I knew he sang the song and never got credit for it at the time. They finally changed the DVDs to that. And I was like, what a cool interview to have, just timely. We'll have that in there. And it was so cool. But for $1, you can get a shout out and thank you on the radio show. Does Herb Tarlick approve this?
We have a Patreon, and one of the things we do is we give a shout out for $1. So I figured, why not do it here? One thing I did not know is with Kickstarter that it says pledge without a reward. So I didn't know that. I know that was a thing. I thought you decided what that was. So I figured, for $1, I'll give them something for $1. So that was my thought process behind it.
I like it. $3 for the digital copy of the comic book. That is beyond cheap. Now, I'm gonna have to ask. You hit those stretch goals.
They will get the digital.
Bigger?
They will get the digital copy of issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, and the trade. They will get the digital. They only bought the digital. They'll get the digital. They bought the physical and digital. They'll get the physical and digital.
Guys, just find 1,000 of your friends and say, "Give me $3 each, everybody," and just put this in here. I'm looking at the chat now, and just get this thing over goal. Hit those stretch goals. You'll get a PDF like you wouldn't believe. But if you're like me, I don't prefer PDFs because I have I've been in IT long enough. No, machines crash and backups fail. I prefer to have physical books. I know fires and floods also happen. Not to me yet. So
knock on wood. You gotta.
Yeah. Press board will have to do. But for $15, you can get the digital and the physical, and who knows how much more you'll get if the stretch goals start getting hit up here. This can be, has the potential to be huge.
Yeah, we still have plenty of time. We're only this is our beginning of the second week, so we have plenty of time to make those goals.
For $20, you get that and the exclusive trading card of Natasha Ash.
Yep.
That almost sounds like Bananarama. It's just like you just keep adding on to it.
So actually, that name is a real person I know. Well, I knew.
Really?
Yeah, that was her real name.
My apologies, Natasha, but
she was my first kiss. I was like, I'm putting her name as a comic book character.
Are you going to send her a signed copy after this, or is Mrs.
Actually, I can't even find her online, so I don't know whatever happened to her. This was.
Oh my goodness! You have to take a stack of these to the next reunion.
I think I was 7 or 8 when I had my first kiss at her birthday. It was she had to kiss me on the cheek. Yeah.
Okay. That she doesn't even know who you are, but guys, that's the stuff we remember. So jumps to 120 for the next tier here because you're getting the original comic page. So this is the tradition because it was all done traditional pencils.
That's right.
So you get the original art signed by me if you want me to.
Fantastic. And of course, you put the right page up here. It's going to be random, but yeah.
Yep. And I also put that to show the difference between the black and white and the color. See, all of that was all planned in my head.
Well, you had a plan at least. It's more than a lot of Kickstarter. I mean, you planned your Kickstarter. I can tell by the design and the layout because I've seen Kickstarters and Indiegogos where it's like the section still has the default text that you get when you sign up. So I don't know what to put there. Just leave it alone.
Well, I want to give credit to Abby Gabato. She's my graphic designer. She designed all this. Like without her, I could not have done it. She did an amazing job.
It's got a nice theme to it. I just started stuttering here because I'm like, wait a second. When did we jump over to Aardvark Studios here? Clay figures, custom made 5-inch or 6-inch clay figure of.
So it's of the characters, and a little description underneath it says who the characters are. But you get a clay sculpture like this is a 5-inch sculptor. You can actually see how the details are.
Oh man!
So you get to pick any of the characters from the book, or the main characters, or the bad guy. He's a little tall, so it'll be 6 inches. That's why it's 5 or 6 inches. But these are all custom, handmade clay figurines, and this is a beaut.
Have these been baked or anything?
This size has been. I know he does he does bake them.
Okay.
I forget how he makes them. He explained it to me, and I was like, yeah. I don't know anything he's talking about, but I believe he mentioned that he has to bake them to get them that hard. And
I would hope so because
he uses the clay colors, so they're not painted afterwards. He uses the clay, the colored clays, and he puts it all together as is. Then. Yeah, because the biggest thing we do here is the shipping for crowdfunder stuff, and I'm looking at them like that would be a nightmare for me to figure out how to ship that and get it in one piece. Well, that's his business, so that's what he does. So when he sent me this, it comes in. He put it in this box right here, so you get a nice little container and everything. Like this is how I got it from him when I got this.
That's even scarier because there's like there's nothing holding the clay piece together. And I'm like, but it must be good and hardened.
It's solid.
Watch. I'm waiting for you. To pull up. I'm waiting for it to hit the side of the wall. It's like, oh my god, I broke it on there.
Squish.
That'll make for good TV, though.
It would, yes. Jump over here and get these other chats here. Big Apple Comic Con, mentioned by Mark, is a fun con too. Mike Carbonara is one wild and crazy guy, and Steranko is usually there. Just Steranko's like one of the few remaining My Heroes of comics that are still around.
Yeah.
Actually,
Mike Walters, getting ready to start.
Steranko will be at the next Big Apple Con. It is scheduled for December the 17th. Is the Big Apple Christmas Con. Tickets are on sale right now.
And speaking of baking things, why doesn't anyone ever offer Shrinky Dinks with their campaigns? Were you listening to the campaign? A couple of, excuse me, I'm going to block the person who promises to give you nudies, but won't.
But never does. It's just empty promises.
It's empty promises.
If you actually delivered on your promises, you wouldn't get blocked.
Yeah. Come on. Give us something to get our hopes up here. I have actually looked for somebody's campaign and found the blank pages of Shrinky Dink plastic that you can get. So you could actually run them. I was going to get some and run them through my inkjet printer because they're printable. You can actually have a layout of black and white line art drawings or color and print them out. And then you could just send them to people with the instructions to bake, or you could bake them yourself and send them out as charms, pre-cut stuff. Yeah, you could be making all of your characters drawn to this and shrink down to this and be nice and hard and thick.
Can you imagine that conversation that happened with Shrinky Dink? Someone's like, all right, so we have this thing, and you have to put it in the oven to make it into a smaller thing. People want to buy that, and they did.
Yeah, well, we did. Well, we were buying pet rocks.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it just be cheaper just to get it as the size that you wanted in the first place? Like, in my head, I'm like, how did that conversation go?
It wasn't until YouTube came along that I saw how they were supposed to be, because like my mom would put them in the oven and then we'd watch them and we were expecting them to shrink up. Instead, we saw them start to curl up. We're like, oh, the oven's too hot. Like, oh, no, they're supposed to do that. And then they straighten back out again. Leave them alone.
Because they always show a time sped up in the commercial. It's like, oh, it's like that. It didn't happen like that at all.
Didn't happen like that at all. We thought it was going to catch fire. But remember, you'd see them. They'd like, you can't see me now because I got so caught up by internet porn. I left my message. They would show you like affixing one to the side of a glass while it was hot and how it would stay there. I was like, it doesn't do that. Would have been cool. But yeah, Shrinky Dinks are definitely out there. They're an option. You should be putting them in your campaign as if you want to stand out. Also, I found out is printable vinyl. Now,
really,
why is printable vinyl important? Because at the same time that we were playing with our Shrinky Dinks, we were playing with printable vinyl. We called it color forms, and you would peel them off and stick them on a pre-printed city, and make your adventure set, and then peel them off, put them back on the thing. You wipe them down with a wet cloth; they remain sticky forever.
So that was vinyl.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
Those are just little vinyl clings.
Wow.
So you can get white sheets of vinyl for the printer, print your characters on them, draw up some, alien spaceship interior and just have them in different fight scenes and poses. Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Didn't you have those, Jimmy? Peter? Look. How often does that happen to you? Come on.
No, almost never.
I'm the first. Yay.
Happens a lot to him too. I remember Shrinky Dinks for sure. The other stuff vaguely rings a bell. Yeah. It's like before video games, there were like all kinds of weird contraptions and toys and stuff.
Yeah. And they were trying to kill us. It was the era of the Darwin Award. We had jarts, the big lawn darts with the steel point at the end, and you would throw them toward each other because you were standing by the other person's goal.
Remember the clacky things?
The gnip-naps.
You just kill yourself with that. Those things are so hard.
Oh my God. I had one outside. I wasn't supposed to have it. It was supposed to be kept away, and I'm sitting there playing with it. My little brother's like grabbing at me like this. So to keep it away from him, I hold it up over my head and start spinning it. Now I've got a bolo.
Right.
And he keeps reaching, so I just let it go. And I hear this. It took out my uncle's windshield of his car.
Oh, no.
Oh, it
Those things
shattered.
were no joke.
Yeah, well, that's why the ones today are like little plastic things on a stick with plastic wires holding them up instead of strings. It's like, and you can't get any good action out of them. It's a piece of crap. And give us the good stuff, guys. But they were glass balls. They were hard.
Yeah,
Right.
they were murder balls. You could you really could.
Well, yeah,
just
I
go
mean, and
around.
they were on like 8-inch to 12-inch strings. So if you swing it around like this and throw it at something, you're gonna strangle somebody and take them down.
That's your super weapon of choice. So once you had the orphans, you had ran around and you beat villains with that thing. You could have been called a clacker.
How did we get here? We grew up in the same era. That's how we got here. We remember this stuff. $1,020. Not an even thousand. You got it's 1,020. This has been precisely calculated here. You get the 12-inch clay figure, a battle diorama featuring all the main characters from the book. Okay, so this is what is a battle diorama?
So you get an action scene in clay of all the characters together.
Okay, so you get your one big one, and then you get a bunch of the little ones in a fight scene.
It says or. So you can get a 12-inch one figure, or you get the 5 inches in a big battle.
Oh, man. I want to say this takes me back to something I did as a kid, but embarrassingly, I was an adult. I had all the DC Superpowers figures. And I had my first house and my first entertainment center, and my TV's in the middle. You had these two shelves up here that are supposed to be for VHS tapes. Well, I opened the glass door on one. I'm like, Green Arrow's kneeling on this rock, and he's firing his bow and arrow. Superman and Hawkman tying fishing line around them. We're taping them up to the top there. They were all in one great big battle. It was glorious.
See, that's your diorama right there.
22-year-old me couldn't wait to show that to distinguished guests in my home. I was that guy. Of course, I also had on the top of the shelf no less than 7 Michael Keaton Batman banks that came from the cereal boxes, because that's how much cereal I ate. Oh.
And you see, everybody always ate the cereal. No one ever just didn't eat the cereal. That was boggled my mind. Like, why couldn't you just dump out the cereal and take the thing? No, people actually ate all the cereal.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the bank was so big it wasn't even in the box. It was shrink wrapped to the front of the box.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
It was huge. And it was a bust. It was him. It was waist up. And it looked like Michael Keaton, because Michael Keaton kind of looks like a baked plastic figurine in the face. So for $1,000, you're getting something super cool, as well as the physical copy of the comic and the digital, which could get bigger. And we got some add-ons here. You've got your Natasha Ush trading card, can be added on as an add-on, which if you're going to buy this and then add it on, why? you're already getting it. If you're going to get it as an add-on, go for the big stuff and add it on, right? And then you get a Sunburst option as well. So who's Sunburst? We didn't talk about who these characters are the whole time we've been on here.
Well, Sunburst, that was the figurine that you have, and this is that's my character. She is the mascot for the Came From the Radio.
Okay, so is she part of this team, or is she just part of the radio?
She's just part of me.
Okay.
I had, these are War of the Independence trading cards that I've had for a while. It was actually my first character ever published. She was in the War of the Independence issue #1. She had a little she was in there in a little group shot. She was in there. I was like, hey, that's my character. So she was first time it was ever published, any of my characters that I wanted to make. So I was approached by Mariano Nesesia, that's Fabian's brother, to do a crossover, and he made trading card sets. So he gave me a whole bunch. Trading cards. I was like, you know what? I have trading cards. People like trading cards. I have one other trading card. Might as well throw that in there too, because that's my character. And she is also in the Phaser Sunburst War of the Independence crossover issue 2, was my first ever published comic. So it's out there somewhere. I was on another stream and the guy actually found it on eBay or something, Amazon. You can get it. I think he was selling, what was it, $15? The money doesn't go to me, but it's still cool that it's out there. Somebody has it.
Yeah, somebody's looking for it.
So Sunburst is my one of my characters that I made. So the thing is, as I was mentioning in the comic book school, is that you wanted to make something that you had willing to give up to the IPs to get your foot into the door, to get your book, and then you're going to make whatever you wanted, your real story. So I had a whole bunch of superheroes, a whole bunch of characters that I had drawn and written even as a kid, all the way till when I got to the school, and that was going to be my big thing. And so the idea was, hey, you have to make something that you're willing to lose, to give up, and Designated was that. But because it's taken so long and I've cradled it for so long, that's now my main character. So now I'm like, I'm more protective of that than I was the other stuff.
Well, you have a stretch goal here of 6,200, which
it's basically what we did. So you get, I know throughout the years, I've met a lot of different creators, and they were nice enough to give me their PDFs to include. So if we make our goal, you get a bonus already of the of 6 different comics, all PDFs, and it's total 202 pages. Most of them are full stories. They're really good stuff, good reads. And then when we hit that goal, I will put up the next stretch goal, which is for issue 2, and then issue 3, and then issue 4. I felt that putting up all the stretch goal is kind of a bad way to do it. Let's focus on one thing at a time, as opposed to, if we make $10 million, then you get a car. Let's go little by little and get there. I felt that that's more genuine. One of the things that always pissed me off was when they first announced the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies. They had announced that they were going to make 3 movies. And I was like, well, what if I don't like the first movie? That's kind of ballsy to say you're going to make 3 movies. So that was where that idea came from.
Yeah. But they committed and they finished it. Now, see,
they did.
The people who do Narnia never do that. I've never seen anybody go all the way through the Narnia Chronicles. They always poop out around Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
Just like, nobody cares about Prince Caspian. That's the boring one. Just skip ahead to the magician's nephew and the horse and his boy, and give me that last battle, please. Come on, I want the big screen, full cinema version of that. I was looking at the team here. You've got you and Peter and Hassan. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if he had an old photo of his buddy who drew this in pencil, and you've got this 13-year-old or so kid. It's like, and penciled by.
Actually, I have a picture of him. It was like, this is when pictures mattered. You had to actually take it and go to the store to get it developed and everything. So, back then.
You guys Xerox it out of your high school yearbook or something, or your grade school yearbook. So you're at 42.58 out of a. Okay, is this in Canadian?
No, it's $128.
I know, but the goal is 6,100. Okay, why?
It makes first of all, I actually did all the calculations, like my guesstimates, and one of the things I was told when making a Kickstarter campaign is to do not underestimate the fees and the shipping and production. So I was like, okay. So I made those numbers, and then I was like, okay, so how much does it cost to make the rest of the book? We need to get the colors done and the letters and printing. So with that math, I was like, okay, so it's about this much. And I said, well, I don't want to be like everybody else, so I want to stand out a little bit. So let's make it a specific number. And that was why I came up with that number. It's pretty close to what we actually need, but that's
you just rolled it. You took 6-sided dice and rolled it 4 times and took the numbers. That's good.
So it raises a question and makes a conversation. That's one thing I learned doing 20 years of retail. You want to have a conversation. You want to have a question.
Yeah. Well, there it is. Questions from the chat. Good evening, one. How long is Designated as a series? We've addressed that earlier. It's five issues. And as a follow-up, do you have an editor?
So yes and no. That's an actual question. The original book, 110 pages, as I mentioned, I wrote it as 5 separate issues when I originally wrote it 30 years ago. And trying to get it published, you go to other publishers, you go to other publishing companies, you go to other people who say they're publishers. You go through all that through all the years. So one of the publishers that I was close to getting it done with had an editor. And the editor went through all of the scripts. So we had an editor. It was edited, but this is after the fact after I already written it. So there wasn't much changes I could do. It was basically like grammar and that type of stuff because this was already written and it was already penciled. So I couldn't even change it if I wanted to, which actually made me go back to look at it because I had to reread it for this thing and it still holds up. That was an important thing to me, that if I wrote it back then and it doesn't hold up, I wouldn't be comfortable trying to sell it. So we had an editor and basically it was just, fix this dialogue, fix that dialogue. And since we didn't have a letterer, then I can work with that. So it is edited. We no longer have an editor. So I guess I would be the editor, but it's already edited. It's kind of like gray, weird type of area. You have to think it's a 30-year-old property. This is stuff that happens.
Yeah, we've done videos already before on why you need to have an editor. So I relate to Dominic's question there. Herrenberg is back. Says I think you answered this, but we're kind of going through it fast. Why does it say War of Independence on the Sunburst card? Sounds like he was checking it out on eBay trying to find it.
So yes, it is. She was in issue number 1. There was a splash page. I forget what page it was, but she is in there. This was a comic made by Dave Ryan for Red Anvil Press, and he wanted to have his own big clash of independent comic book characters. And Pete was kind enough to make the introduction to me. It's like, hey, Mark, you got a character. You want to have her in the book? And I was like, do I? And so then, as I mentioned, I was approached by Fabian Necesia, Mariano Necesia, Fabian's brother, to make the comic book crossover, which we did. And he also made a trading card set, which I have. And he gave me a whole bunch of my own trading cards. That's why it says War of Independence on it.
Oh, man. I almost wrote a comic book. And I'm in the middle of actually writing one now. But it was one of those things like you're talking about publishers who were going to be publishers and then weren't. And I did this. I wrote out the first 4 issues of what was going to be a 6-issue miniseries, fully scripted, and I sent it to the guy, and he sent it to the artist that had basically sent in drawings that piqued his attention. Said, "Yeah, this will be the guy to do it." Rajiv Golay did beautiful work, and he gave me these character sheets. He'd drawn each one of the characters in a row, it's like heights and different, like. Oh yeah. And this is why I hate digital. I don't have them anymore. They were on a 3.5-inch floppy disk.
Floppy disk, holy crap.
Yeah, which wasn't floppy. And I don't have them anymore. But this was when the publisher found out the thing that many crowdfunder writers are finding out today. Artists like to be paid first. And he didn't have the money, and a book didn't get made. So I was stupid. I was like, I'll take royalties, man. Anything, to get published. But now I'm back to writing a comic book story, not a comic book. There is a unannounced, I'm not going to be the one to break the silence on it, an anthology of a bunch of independent creators who are working with not creator-owned, public domain, the other thing.
Okay.
Public domain characters from the Golden Age, and I'm doing a 6-page story featuring The Clock Strikes. Very first masked comic book hero, not superhero, but pre-Batman, just a guy in a mask, and it's gonna be fun, but it's also kitschy and oversimplified because it's Golden Age, It's
So you're not modernizing him?
What's that?
You're not modernizing him. You're making it.
I'm not modernizing him. It's still pre-World War II. Mean streets of the city. It's the Clock starts out with a black napkin basically over his face, and then in later years he goes to a domino mask. But in all cases, he's still wearing his blue suit and fedora. I'm like, why'd you switch to the Spirit's mask, dude? George Brenner was the creator, and he worked with Will Eisner. So I'm like, didn't you guys talk? Because I can't tell you guys apart. But this will be the story of why he switches masks. The way I'm writing it.
See that? You had a question, and you came with a story to find the answer. Well done. Yeah. You made a Rogue One.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I quit now. All right. Is there anything else about this Kickstarter and or these characters that people should know about before we wrap things up here?
well, I guess I should throw out the powers.
Yes.
So we have
Or tell us about them. Don't throw them out. You might need them.
So you have the main characters right there. You have Natasha Ashe, which is at the time based off of Britney Spears. I was like, Britney Spears is a comic character. That's going to be her. She has the power of enhanced intuition and I guess her gut. So like as everybody has, you have that little voice that tells you what to do. Not exactly, but sort of. So she gets her gut instincts that tells her what to do, and she learns to follow it. And it always leads her to the best possible outcome of the situation that she's in. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's like Domino, where she has luck powers, but in situations, she can find herself. If she should go down one road as opposed to the other road, one road is filled with danger that she'll never be aware of, kind of like that. Then we go up and we have, hey, Pops. And we go
Privilege, what can I tell you?
We have Adam, who's based off of the Power Ranger. Adam Park, one of my favorite Power Rangers at the time, 90s. He has upper limit human physical strength, endurance, and speed only under duress. So, like, for example, if you want to try to catch a bus and you're you and you try to run after the bus, you'll be able to catch the bus because you're able to run as fast as Usain Bolt, who is the fastest human on the planet.
Okay.
But once again, it's only under duress. Then going up, we have Kelly is a 16-year-old based on the Olsen twins at the time. She has my favorite power, which is the ability to absorb the strongest emotion in her immediate area and redirect it. So, for example, if you're at a sports event or a bar and someone is going to get into a fight and they just get really angry, she'll feel that anger, and then she'll be able to make everybody else angry as well. Then we go down to Chris. He is based off of a character that I saw the day after tomorrow for his look. Like I already had an idea. Chris was my best friend back in the day. And he has a super photographic memory. So you have the regular photographic memory, which is out now that people actually have. Marilu Hanna, for one, she is an actress and she has that photographic memory. But he goes one step further. So if he sees it, he remembers it. So if you took a dictionary, he can read everything in the dictionary. It'll take him the same amount of time to read a dictionary as anybody else does, but he'll be able to remember everything he sees. That doesn't necessarily make him smarter, just makes him, he knows stuff.
Yeah.
Then we go down to Ed. He was based off of the character from Godzilla's Revenge, the movie, a little Asian boy with a little baseball hat and the shorts. That was based on him. I was like, that's who I want to be that character. Since he's 5 years old, he has the ability to astral project when he's asleep. He's able to appear in other people's dreams while he's asleep. And he's also able to appear and manifest in person while he's asleep. And he has the ability to create manifestations of energy to turn them into objects, such as if there's a situation where he needs to get a key will pop into his hand because at that age, you just kind of want stuff and need stuff and things appear. Now, one of the things I made sure of is that everything happens as it would if it was really happening. So no one explains anything to them. No one says things. Things just kind of happen and they have to kind of figure it out. I do have exposition in the story, but only people who know stuff and people ask what the hell's going on. Like, well, this is what's going on. And that's how you know things. You know, like there's no situation where someone knows something that they shouldn't know. And that always bothers me when watching movies or TVs. Like, how do they know that? Why does this person know this? So a lot of people in this book, as I said, stuff just kind of happens. So they're in an accident. They wake up. Weird things happen to them. No one says, oh, you have powers. No, it's just stuff happens. And then aliens show up. Like, why are these aliens showing up? Why are they chasing me? I don't know. Let's get out of here. That kind of a thing. And then it gets resolved. So that's, like I said, very low key. And that's the story.
I had to pop out and say hi because I missed my chance last week, guys. But, definitely want to reschedule you guys, get you on the show. How you doing, RJ? What's up, brother?
I finished. The show officially is over.
Show is over. End of the bottle. You should have a little the end taped at the bottom of the yeah. That way, like, oh, show's
I'm
over.
gonna do that. I'll get a vinyl cling color form that says the end and just right there.
Didn't I leave that video in there for you? I left it in there for you, didn't I?
You did, but I got my own goodbye video.
Well, it's still you saying goodbye. You just,
I know. It's how do you end this thing? How do you put where's the brakes on this bus? I forgot.
Jazz hands are
Good night.
Yeah. That was many whiskers ago. Now that was.
That was a whole week ago,
I know. I got a haircut. I cut all of them.
huh? Peter, it's good to see you. Marcus, nice to
Great.
meet you. We will set you guys up.
We've interacted before throughout the years.
Yeah. But I talk to so many people.
It's all good. Happens to me all the time. Happens to me all the time.
But I definitely want to get you guys out on the show before this is over. So when you got a minute, hook me, get with me. I'll set up a special edition. It don't matter.
You got 21 days to go, and
tomorrow. We'll get the dates we have. And take it from there.
Cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
21 days to go. It's the 8th. Not only can you get them on the show, Pops, but you can probably get them on a CromCon.
CromCon, we're signing up tomorrow at 2 p.m.
So,
Dun, dun, dun.
always thinking.
Yeah, this one's going to be normal, though. It's going to be normal. Man, last month was so much fun, but this one will be regular where everybody gets their normal time slots and that kind of stuff. And then next month, we might go to Cincy. So,
Live from Cincy. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was fun. So we're probably going to look for ways to do it some more, But I'll let you guys get back to it. Y'all go back
done,
this
man.
book.
We're done.
Good. Then I'll just say it. Y'all go back this book. When you come out of my show, I want you to everybody have already backed it, and we'll just have fun talking, right?
That's right.
One thing I always say is that if you cannot financially support the book, share it out there. That's worth its weight in gold. You never know anybody's financial situation. You might need that dollar to get a dollar store from the McDonald's or something or whatever. I understand it, and I would appreciate the share if you cannot afford to contribute.
Absolutely. Ehrenberg, I have I'm sure it's the same Rajiv Golay. I don't think there's too many of them in comics. I lost track of him. I tried to find him for a while. He was in Nepal. He said he had the work, but it was on a computer that was in a storage shed, and there was a volcano. It was difficult for him to get to it.
Never heard that
so
excuse.
He probably did do that. Yeah. Excuses. I hope he still has it. That would be wonderful if he still had Hero Club drawings still on his. Pops is in here playing with my stuff.
Yeah, I'm playing with this stuff. He don't mess with his banners enough.
I focus on what's being said. That takes all my attention.
I know.
Dominic, it's unknown. Because the artist
is someone who was a friend of mine from high school, his brother. So it wasn't even a friend of mine. It was his brother that was like, I want to draw it. It wasn't even like, I want to draw it. So I was like, you want to draw it? Go right ahead. So I can't even say. And this was his first attempt at drawing any type of a comic. And his sequences are amazing. He really did a good job.
Yeah.
Like, he can tell the story. And that was one of the most important things. So I kind of lucked out that he was able to do it. So I wish I know. But when I bring him that check, I will ask him that question for you.
And the check will entice an answer, I promise.
You've got to live stream that when you do it, Mark. You just got to say, hey, come over here. I got something for you. And then just turn the camera on.
I haven't heard from you in 20-something years. Why are you bothering me?
Here's the $37 I owe you.
And you're just like, here's the money. Here's this comic. He's like, oh, you're still into those things?
Well, he'd be like, I did that? That was me.
Did you see what I got today,
why don't you let me redraw this? I'm so much better now.
Did you see what I got today, RJ?
No. I actually went to work today, Pops.
Thin blue line landed in the doorstep today.
Oh, did you got the challenge coin?
No, I just got the book because I was the guy who promoted it the most. Remember that contest way back in the beginning?
Oh yeah.
The person who promotes this book the most will get a free copy. I got my free copy.
I just handled all the fulfillment for it. So yeah, except for the actual mailing.
Man, were you guys talking about sexy things? What's with all the bots, man?
I know
we are attracting attention.
Blowing up tonight.
Yeah, we're
scary.
Apparently, once I block them once, I can't block them anymore. I can only block one of their multiple hits. Guys, Here's the tip. Let me give you some marketing advice. You got the word naked in bold. That's good. That sells. Mark, put that on front of your book.
Naked designated.
Designated naked, number one.
Designated.
Designated.
There you go. I like that. That's the naughty cover. But after that, spell check your posts. Make them have syntax and correct spelling, and you don't want people to automatically say, "Oh yeah, all these misspelled words, that's a spam." Draw them in, hook them, guys. Just if you need me to help you, contact Critical Blast Spamming. Well, I'll set up the logo for that tonight. We will help you write good and concise posts to spam other YouTube shows with. And I can even, hook you up with a bunch of different links of shows that are always being watched, right, Pops?
All the time.
You're targeting comic geeks. We're sex starved, so you're doing something right, but you're just not doing it right enough.
You're on the right stream.
This is the stream you were looking for.
Yeah. And I was glad that I was just like surfing through to see what was up, because otherwise I'd have missed this. You guys were almost done, so the whole thing is I do share everybody's shows out. When I see Peter's live, I tell everybody Peter's live. I share everybody's stuff because that's what I want. I want as many eyes on what you guys do as possible.
Appreciate it.
The reward for me is it's twofold. You guys, you get funded, you get to do what you love, which is create comics. But also, how many backers are there on this right now, RJ?
18.
Okay, that's 18 people that want this book. I do this for them too, because I want the fans like me, like RJ, to get the books we want to read. The only way we get them is if they get to their funding goal, So I push it not just for the creators, but for the fans as well. And I really need people to understand that. It's like the fans want these books. When you see 40, 50, 80 people back a book and it's right on the edge of funding, help them 80 people get their book, man. Just
be one of us. I got this, and I haven't even opened it yet because I got on the way in. And yes, remember, my mail lady went on vacation. A mail lady who knows what I do and what I get.
Didn't I show something just like that a couple weeks ago?
So I'm scared to open this. I know what's in it.
How dare she go on vacation?
Well,
it's not.
She should at least train everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. How many people on your route are you going to have that have specific things they get all the time that you want to take care of? Right. My mail lady, she is beautiful. Miskatonic High. Did it survive? Looks like it survived.
It did survive. Came with.
Nice.
This is going to go on the jacket.
Patches, big old patches.
Big old patches. And they've been doing these for a while, and I was never getting them.
Is that the standee or whatever?
Oh, wait. This is, but I was like, can I get them all at one time?
The standee.
So this is the vinyl standees.
You got the whole faculty there, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I waited until it was all done. I was like, okay, now just send me everything. And they're like, yeah, it's an add-on. I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, crap. It was like 5 days into the end of the campaign, and they did not have the full thing as an add-on, so they threw it on there and made sure I could get it. It was like, we could have sold a lot more of those.
And that's the other thing. Always when your fans ask for something specific on your campaign, if you can do it, because they're going to buy it. That's why they asked.
That's why Shrinky Dinks came up in the chat tonight, man.
I was blown away. We had Cindy made these little crochet crumbs, right? Yeah. And when we put the campaign up, these were the first things that went.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want. Whatever they asked for, make it happen. They were after me to try to talk Cindy into making more of those.
Well, so, it's like Neil Gaiman was quoted somewhere a while back about about responding to fans, and it's like the fans will tell you when you've got something. It's like, yeah, that thing you did, make more of that thing. And when they tell you that, make more of that thing. And then he sells Sandman to Netflix, and go figure. I'm actually watching it, and it's enjoyable. There are changes, and the most egregious one is the gender swap of John Constantine for Joanna Constantine. No, not his ancestor from the book, actual current time. But from what I understand, they didn't have a choice. They couldn't get the rights to John Constantine, which makes me wonder how they're going to get the rights to Sandman, the DC Comics hero, because he has a major arc in the entire thing. So I don't know how they're going to pull that one off.
Well, the way DC is right now, they might be willing to take their property for a couple bucks.
Oh, the way DC is right now, Netflix will just say, "Here's $25. You're now Netflix Comics," because there's. I think Zaslav's going to have a bloody axe by the end of the week. He's cutting things right and left, and. Daniel Cherry left. They didn't replace him.
I'm just gonna no.
You don't think? You don't think?
No, I'm just not. Look, there are so many people talking about this. I'm just gonna shut up. I'm not.
You're gonna wait and see.
I'm just not gonna say nothing because no matter what I say, I'm gonna get attacked either way.
Oh, so, yeah. And if you're wrong, 5 years later, be like, look at these idiots thought DC Comics was going to go under.
I mean, just about the current state. It's like I'm not going to say anything. Everybody on the ship ain't rowing. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
Grab an oar. No, wait, that's somebody else.
But the meaning is the same. It's like you got a whole bunch of people riding on that ship, and if nobody's rowing, it's coming to a stop, or it's going to sink altogether.
From my perspective, everybody's rowing, but they're not rowing in unison. They're rowing in their own directions, and the captains are taking an extended coffee break and just saying, "Yeah, just row. You're rowing good. Just row."
Captains are deep in the rum. It ain't coffee, bro.
Oh, okay. Gossip time is over.
Yeah,
guys.
No, yeah, I didn't want to go into no kind of specifics or anything, but my God, help us. They're comic books. Help us.
We know.
We know.
We know how to do this.
You guys look like you got a good thing going here, though. I definitely want to get you on the show, talk more about it. And I'm going to have to go back and watch this replay so I know what the hell I'm talking about when I get you on the show.
There you go.
Never stopped me.
I know. Hey, RJ, I rarely research. Usually I go out there live and cold. I don't care. I like finding out.
I don't even know who I'm talking to half the time. I called Peter Jimmy just a few minutes ago.
I won't do that, I promise.
I should charge people for doing that.
You should.
Show up at cons that he's supposed to be at and just sit in his table.
Oh no! Just go out there and put his banners behind you.
Yeah, that's all.
Hey, that works though. I mean, my first book, and I could grab it, but I don't feel like it. The first book I had published was a Sandman spinoff. Actually, it's in Leslie Klinger's annotated Sandman volumes because I stole it. I stole the title from. There was a scene where Lucian's walking through the Library of Dreams. He said, "Here are all the books that have never been written," and you could read the spines. And one of them was Alice's Journey Beyond the Moon by Lewis Carroll. I'm like, I'm taking that one, and I wrote it. And Telos Publishing in the UK printed it, and they'd published Neil Gaiman before in smaller volumes, so they sent him a copy, and he name checked it on his blog. He's like, "Hey, on my desk today, this book, first time I recall a book ever escaping Lucian's library," and I'm like, copy, paste, banner buzz. So I've got this huge banner that I take to conventions. I have that book there. It's got the book cover, and right above it, it's got that in great big bold letters with even bigger letters, Neil Gaiman. And people walk by and they stop.
Now, did you guys hear anything about some shady happenings at C2E2?
You mean more than normal?
I mean like speculators buying up all the exclusive covers and stuff before the show opened.
Ooh,
Right.
no.
Up in the price. People stapling their own covers over other books. CGC grading them. Oh, it's been ugly this time, brothers.
boy.
Ugly.
So wait a second. I come in with pre-printed covers. I go up and I buy somebody's book. I staple my cover onto it and I CBC grade it. I did not know I could do that.
Dude, they pretty much have a whole bunch of stuff going on over there this weekend that yeah, I've seen a few articles about some really shady stuff. We got people naming names. Oh, and I'm just over here on the sideline going, I'm so glad I'm just a nice, legit promoter, you know. It's like,
You went to the wrong convention, man. Where the action is.
yeah, but I mean, seriously, you know, it's like there's a lot of people out there that are burning people. They're ripping people off and getting away with it. And you know us. That's one thing that we've always been dead against. Like, I'm a promoter. Okay. People come out of my show. Sometimes they get backers, sometimes they don't. I have zero control of that. So I surely cannot charge people for a service I
People come on my
cannot
show and get refunds.
guarantee a result from, right? I can't charge you, let's say, $200 a month to the end of the year, and I'll promote your books to the end of the year. But what if my promotion doesn't make you $200 a month? Now I'm dipping into a small creator's well, and that's not cool, right? So I don't do stuff like that. I don't charge people to promote, but there's people out there that do that. And they cannot guarantee any kind of results whatsoever. And it just irks the hell out of me that they get away with doing this, you know? Look, people, you're your best promoter, okay? Platforms like RJ's and mine and
We're free.
Nita's and all that, we don't charge you guys to promote you. And we're going to get, you know, the eyes on your product a lot more than that guy is, unless he's booking you on our shows. And if he's charging you $200 a month to book you on our shows, which doesn't cost him anything, he's ripping you off. Don't let these people do this to you. We are all approachable. We want to promote what you do. Don't let these clowns rip you off.
Right.
You know.
I'm easy to reach. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook still. Don't know why.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
just you know, don't. I mean, especially the new guys. Okay, you're gonna get them emails. Hey, man, we can do this and this and this and this for you. Make them show you results.
oh yeah. As soon
Make
as I
them
launched that
show you
Indiegogo,
results.
got all kinds of emails when we launched our Indiegogo last month or 2 months ago.
Yeah,
I just ignored all of them because I'm like,
exactly.
I've got a show.
You can
I'll be
see
talking
what
about
we
it.
can do. You can watch our shows when we do launch parties. Sometimes we have really successful launches. Sometimes not so much. We cannot make customers buy books. All we can do is put the books where they can see them.
Oh,
But I
That's
thought,
all.
I thought you could. That's why I signed up. No.
yeah. Well, you know what we do. Yeah, we do the what is it? Whenever Hannity puts a book out and it's suddenly a #1 New York Times bestseller. You know, we have groups of people that go out and buy in bulk. And then they resell them at conventions. It's a million bestseller. The million to one guy, but it sold 1 million of them.
But yeah, just be smart, especially like I say, you new guys, man. Just be smart. It's not, look, people like RJ, myself, Peter, we're not afraid to answer questions for you.
Right.
Come to us, ask us. We will tell you, hey, yeah, that one's legit. Hey, that one ain't, you know, whatever. We've been around long enough. We know who's out here actually working for you and who's working for themselves. We're not afraid to tell you. You know? Protect yourself, protect your product, have fun.
I work with everybody. I'm inclusive. So
yeah, I know you have some dummies on your show.
yeah, I've had interviews that, you know, at the end of the show, I'm like, you know, well, that happened.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for about almost 3 years. it's been fun, yo. Especially when, I watch it grow and expand into doing it live at a con and all this. The snowball went downhill, went way past me. If it wasn't for everybody working with me and helping me all the time, this
Right.
thing, I mean, come on, man. It's like I got co-hosts, I got tech people, I got people that do the videos for me. I don't do all this. This thing got way bigger than me, way fast, and it was like everybody helped me keep up with it, and that's how it's been ever since.
Well,
Everybody's
I remember
helped
when you
me.
showed up on my channel promoting
Yeah.
somebody else's book.
I know.
And I treated you like you were the creator.
I know, but that's what I do. I promote everybody else's stuff, and I enjoy it. I want to see the fans get books they want. I want to see creators enjoying what they do so they continue to do it. They enjoy it when they're book funds.
Yes, they do. Hey, you can listen to Mark on the radio online at itcamefromtheradio.com. So bookmark that, and when you get tired of looking at me, go listen to him.
Now, do you have a YouTube channel as well, Mark?
We do.
Well, Harrenberg, link that YouTube channel too.
Is it basically live streaming the radio show, or?
So we actually have once a month, courtesy of the East Meadow Public Library in East Meadow, Long Island. We do a live show, and we do a live stream because of the pandemic. Usually it was in person. So we record that, and I put the video up on that. But it still counts as one of our regular shows. So if you miss it, you can still hear it.
That's kind of how CromCon was born. When ECCCCCC went down back at the beginning of the pandemic, that was when I started doing the monthly online con, because no tables were getting set up. We knew that summer was done. I didn't think I'd still be doing it 3 years later. I'll be honest. I figured we'd get through the summer and everything would be back to normal.
Oh, you're having too much fun to quit, Pops.
Well, I mean, even now that the cons are all back, it's like people still sign up to be part of the show. They still want me to do it. So why stop?
It's not like we're doing it for the advertising revenue. Come on.
And we're not doing it for the super chats.
I'm monetized. I'm monetized. Been monetized for over a year now. I have made not enough for YouTube to write me a check yet, so I haven't even broached the minimum.
Didn't I send you a super chat that first night you were?
You became a member. You're still my only member. 99 cents a month, and you'll get
member number one, yo.
Yeah, you got that written on it. You'll get a sticker.
He sends me a cool sticker, right? He sends me this cool Critical Blast sticker that I can't stick on anything because on the back of it says member number one, and it's like I don't want to take it. I don't want to peel that off, But I got RJ. I got Critical Blast shirt, hat pins, and all that. RJ's been really good to us, man. He bought me a bunch all those Pops pins, those Pops hat pins. RJ bought for me from Sticker Mule, just to help us out. That's why we list him as one of our sponsors.
I try to take care of the people that I'm working with. Like, when Life on Korra came out, I didn't even tell Mike Jimmy that basically because they came at the right time. They're like, hey, we'll make you 50 pins for like a stale donut and some cream cheese. Like, I've got that because they're super cheap. And it happened again just as I'm getting ready to fulfill this thing.
Oh, look at that.
That's cool.
It's Joe.
It's Joe King. So those will be going out.
But yeah, it's all about networking and promotion. That's for me, that's what this is all about. I want to introduce people to each other. You never know what kind of collaborations come out of the show or come out of the group. I try to encourage that. And I want everybody to succeed, man. Be nice to me. I want you to succeed. It's just be nice to me, man.
That's all it takes. Don't ask for much. Just look at the touch. All right. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the stream tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Best of luck with the Kickstarter. This looks good. This got an interesting backstory to the whole creation of it. I'm just fascinated with all of this, and I want to see where it goes.
I didn't mean to keep you guys out here an extra hour or whatever, but like I said, I had to come out and say hi because I missed you.
We got to let them go to the next stream. So
yeah, we got a stream coming out.
Where are you going next?
Drawn talk.
Oh, Tyler. All right, I'll share that out. No problem.
Yep.
Cool.
Good show to be on. Good show to be on. Tell him I said hi.
Right.
He won't know who I am, but just
tell him we're passing you guys along like a fatty.
Yeah. All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight and watching the show. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise, and nobody hears it. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Universal Music Group, you do not own this.